All right, Elias, I appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing your J6 experience. Do you just want to kind of start off with what was going through your mind in the weeks or months ahead of J6? What
Sure,
took
we
you
can
there?
do it. Yeah, and thanks for having me on, Nick.
Yeah,
Appreciate
no
you
problem.
and the work that you're doing to just try to get the truth out. That's really what this is. It's been such an assault on truth and such a push of propaganda. So yeah, I'd be happy to go through it. So I'm from Morgantown, West Virginia. That's where I live now, and I worked outside of DC. I worked about 8 miles from the White House for like 20 years, and I was ran different sales organizations, raised a lot of money for the community. We used to go down to Park, which is about 3 blocks east of the White House, and feed the homeless on Sundays. And it's just, it's been like my backyard. All throughout the summer when Antifa and BLM was like burning DC, I would go down and record. I have a YouTube channel that I've had since 2012. Just like my own personal content, different things, but it's amassed at the time just under 10,000 subscribers. So I was down recording for that. Went to the big rally December 12th, and then booked my room for 3 days for the January 6th rally. So I got off work Monday night and just drove down from my office to the JW Marriott, checked in on the night of the 4th, and then on the 5th, went out, walked around. There was a bunch of great events and speakers, and just recorded. And, just like any other time, there was nothing really to think about. If there was anything to be concerned about, it would be like Antifa stabbing people or something to this effect. A lot of people forget the insurrection of May 29th, where Antifa firebombed the guard shack on the White House grounds and injured 150 police officers and set fire to St. John's Church. And I think they actually, just before Biden left office, the Department of Justice gave them all a big settlement, a big payout. I don't know why, but so yeah, so it's just down there. On the 5th, I walked all around. There was a bunch of rallies up by the Supreme Court, behind the Capitol, just everywhere, taking it all in. January 6th, got up. It was like early 7 in the morning. Went and walked all around. Super cold day, and went over and recorded the rally with Trump. I was there until the speech was over, and had no idea or thought about even going to the Capitol. I'm like, I'm going to the rally at the Ellipse. Like, why would I do that? It's a long walk. So, but that's what he asked everybody to do. I come to find out later that there were multiple licensed rallies to be held at the Capitol. I think one was in Zone 8, which is right behind. If you're walking from like the Ellipse down, it's on the other side of the Capitol, which is the east side. So yeah, so like after he was done talking, I went and stopped by my hotel and used the bathroom. Started walking up Pennsylvania Avenue, and I got maybe like 150 yards away or so. When I first got up there, there was like a temporary green fence that had been installed. That was gone. Never saw anything like that.
Right.
There's plenty of video of people coming in and rolling it away methodically, and then leaving. Not, I don't believe they were ever charged. So that would be one where hopefully they can get an investigation with who actually did that.
Right.
Um, so so yeah, I was about 150 yards away, and there was a couple like front end loaders that were there, I guess, erecting the stage for the inauguration. So I stood up on the tire on one of them and stood for at least maybe 20 minutes or so until a mass of people just started going up the steps. And I think there's one video you have where I was standing.
Yeah.
And it actually
What?
shows where they shove that one guy off the wall.
Yeah.
So there's that yellow front end loader. There was a green one right behind it. I was just standing on the tire.
Right on.
Um, but I thought it was a good vantage point to record.
Yeah. Looks overly peaceful at this point
Yeah,
from
like
where you're standing, at least. I mean, I don't know what's going on out of the camera.
yep. And then it was like, whoa, they shoved that guy off.
Yeah. I don't know if I can.
So that was pretty wild. And for people that aren't aware or haven't put much time into this, in a nutshell, the crowd came up. There was that initial situation with Ray Epps where there was a scuffle at that one small bike gate. But at this point, there was a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
And they were all standing up at the Capitol, and there was a whole line of police. And there was nothing, there was no violence. They were just being peaceful. I mean, I think at this point there was something like 572 Trump rallies, and there had never been anything violent, right? Obviously, like we're the party of like peace and respect and support for the police. The catalyst to which all this fighting and everything started, which I didn't see from my perspective because it was around in the middle in the tunnel, was flashbangs and tear gas that got lobbed a solid, I don't know, 30 or 40 yards back into the crowd.
Right
So
on.
imagine you're standing in between the fence in the front and that 30 or 40 yards, and now all of a sudden there's explosions going off behind you. Anybody would think to like run forward. And I believe, I mean, I'm not a police officer, but it's in their training. You don't like initiate violence on a peaceful crowd. But
Right.
like that's what happened. And that's what set off the whole back and forth and just pissed a bunch of people off. And there's plenty of video of the Capitol Police saying, "Hey, we're just pissing people off." And when they were shooting the tear gas, the wind was blowing at them. So
Oh,
it
sure.
would, they launched it 40, and actually in the first tear gas that went off, it only went about 30 feet and then it blew up. And then now you see like 40 cops all coughing and going away,
Right.
which like, but so yeah, so that's where I was for about 20 minutes where we just saw that video. And then all of a sudden everybody that was there like at the steps just started going up. And like, you know, I've learned all these Latin words. I've never been in trouble for anything in my life. Um, and so one of them is like your mens rea, which is basically like your mental state. Like, what are you thinking? And like for me, it was simple. Like, I'm just here to document, I'm here to record. So now, like, I see all these people running up the steps, and I really just felt like a duty and an obligation to just continue like to follow the story and to record.
Right.
And so that's what I did. And I think you've got another video.
Yeah.
Yep. So here is going up the steps. And there's something so important about this. That's again another narrative buster. If you could pause it right here.
Missed it.
Oh, yeah. So if you look there, there's at least a dozen police officers, and they're like hanging out. They're meandering, walking back and forth. Like even like their demeanor, they were just kind of like, "Hey, like what's up?" Like no problem, you know. Never in a million years walking up these steps because you can't say anything on top until you get up there.
Right.
Would anyone think that, hey, this seems to be like a place I shouldn't be, because you've got all the presence of the police and they're like chilling, walking
Right.
back and forth, hands on their hips, no big deal. Then if you go maybe another 3-4 seconds and then hit pause and run to the left, and if you could stop it there. So there's like a couple doors here, and there was 3 lines of people going in, like that's where I went in. But just to the left, you can see there's 6 windows.
Yep.
The middle window on the right is there was 5 SWAT officers that were just standing there,
Jeez.
and they're just like watching. So like anybody going up to this building to this point, you're thinking, oh well, like shouldn't be a problem. You know, you're hearing chants 1,000 times, whose house, ours house. You know, technically it is
Right.
the people's house. If there was one police officer that said, don't come in here or leave, you know, I was in the building, I walked around for 33 minutes.
Right
No
on.
one said, don't come in here. No one said leave. None of that. I would have been glad to, you know, not go in the, I'm not some kind of like law breaking, like crazy person.
Yeah.
You know, when I was in there, there was some lunatic dressed in all like black block, like with like the pad. So I feel like he must have been Antifa, screaming like to steal paperwork and stuff. I verbally tried to stop him. But yeah, and if you could keep it play again, and then I'm going to turn back around and I'll zoom in on the crowd. A lot of people don't have a perspective for just how many people were there, but this is will give the viewers an opportunity to see. I mean, it's packed with people, and it's packed all the way down Pennsylvania.
Yeah. I think that's really shows there's a lot of people there.
Yeah.
I noticed that when you sent the video to me the other day.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone I've shown this to has. So, you know, I mean, this is on the back of Antifa and BLM burning the country down, setting up autonomous zones. doing all this crazy stuff. So as an American, would you ever think, and that's where I went in, and there's like literally
Right.
lines of people walking in there,
Yeah.
you know, as if you could back it up, can you back it up maybe 2 seconds from where you are from there? So maybe hit, if you can go forward like a second. Okay. So just to the left, there's some steps that go up on the very far left of the screen.
Yep.
Maybe, I don't know if you
Yep.
can back it up just a hair, but that's where the 5 SWAT were standing, overlooking like 3 lines of people that just like were walking in right there. So you
Yeah.
can see them all in black. And they're not like, hey, stop, you know. My entire experience, I didn't see one fist get thrown. I didn't see I saw a little bit of shoving at one point on the other side of the doors by the on the east side, but there was like a
Right.
scuffle. And that's why at a certain point I'm like, you know, I'm just gonna like, I don't feel good about this. Like my phone was at 7%. I just went out at this point. The iPhone 11 was the new phone. It did 4K 60, and I'm like, this is great. I'm like, I'm gonna get millions and millions and millions of views from this content. But anything that got posted, it was all removed for violent and extreme content. So there wasn't an opportunity, certainly not one, to be able to highlight, you know, hey, look, if you're just going in as a blind person to an area you're very familiar with, I've been in the Capitol many times in my life. DC
Right.
is like a 10-minute drive from my office for 20 years. And everybody's up walking around the Capitol and the Supreme Court the day before. It never engaged my mind as somebody who's very seasoned in that area that I was doing anything wrong at all.
Right.
Now you come to the top of the steps and there's all these cops like hanging out and meandering. And in my mind, I'm thinking, man, like I have to like go and record. I just felt such an obligation to. I'm like, this is crazy. There's people all over the place. I need to record this, and like, that's what I did. So, yeah, man, I walked around for like a half an hour. Came out on the other side. People were singing like "God Bless America." You know, there's a lot of things that kind of pop up about that. There's a big intercom system. I think they used later on around 6 or 6:30 when they told people to actually leave, that will like blast your eardrums out. That was never used. You know, Trump asked repeatedly for the National Guard. That was not implemented. So, you know, obviously they wanted this to happen. We've now found out 3 or 4 weeks ago there was 28 undercover FBI agents in some capacity there. There's 3 police officers in a very famous video where the one is telling people go, 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 yeah, climb up the thing. So it was obviously a honey pot or honey trap or whatever it is. Couldn't be any more obvious. And then just the sheer level of like vindictiveness and hatred and what could happen to myself and 1,600 other people is just shocking. So if it's okay, we can get into that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. So I have a 72-year-old sister. She's fully disabled. She's got Parkinson's disease. She's like stage 5. It's very bad. When this happened, she was not as bad. She could still kind of move, but she's got a good shake going on. And so, you know, multiple people reported me because I had live streamed this. And prior to having any videos taken down, like, you know, multiple people were like, oh, you know, there he is. So I'm one of 55 people that were totally peaceful that was used this 1512 charge. Anyone who knows, this is the Fisher case. It's obstruction of an official proceeding. It was written after the Enron scandal. And basically, if you read the spirit of the law, it's there for anyone corruptly interfering with like a official proceeding. So if Nick, you're a witness and you're at Congress for a hearing and I come and threaten you, that would be like corruptly interfering. Or if I take paperwork and like change it, this is what this is for. Not for someone that's peacefully protesting.
Right.
Certainly not for someone that's engaging in a First Amendment protected press. Like I literally get paid for my content. Right. And with YouTube, you have to have at least 1,000 subscribers and like 6,000 minutes annually watched. So it took years for me to get to that point. But for multiple years prior to that, I'd been monetized. And, you know, the press is not the media. It's the printing press, the mechanism by which to be able to convey. And, you know, they deny me that right. I have so many civil rights that were violated. So February 12th, I was one of the first people to get arrested. I wake up to multiple explosions. They had gone like full blown Al Qaeda terrorist SWAT raid on me. So there was like 20 couple agents. They had an MRAP pulled up to the front of the house, probably at least 10 vehicles,
Jesus.
drones in the air. And I wake up to, so they came around the back of the house, broke out the fence. So there was like a glass pane door in the back. They threw multiple flashbangs at me and broke that out. I was downstairs. To get up, and it's like smoke, explosions. Once the flashbangs go off, then all the red and blue lights come on, and the speaker like FBI. And I'm just like, holy shit, this is crazy.
Right.
This is crazy. So imagine you're waking up after just being thrown explosives at, all this kind of, and now they're screaming, hands on your head, hands on your head. And all you can see are these red lasers through the smoke, multiple of them. And so I'm like, like, who wouldn't do that? Everyone's going
Right.
to do that. So here's the thing, man. Like, if I was an Al Qaeda terrorist, I could understand like the way that they treated me in an effective way to just mentally torture someone. Because if I'm screaming, if there's multiple people screaming at you to do something, and then you do it, and then said multiple people, it felt like 5 minutes. It was every bit of 30 seconds, and probably another 15 times. They just keep screaming at me, hands on your head, hands on your head. And I'm like this.
Yeah.
Like, hands on your head. And I'm like, after maybe 1 second and 3 more times screaming at me as I'm like doing what you're asking, like, I'm like, okay, like, you're gonna murder me. You're screaming at me to do something I'm doing. Why are you doing that? Like, and at this point, I hear my disabled sister. She's 72 years old, man. She could barely walk. She like extremely challenging health situations. I'll just leave it at that, not to get personal with what she's dealing with. And she's like, now, like at the bottom of the steps in her nightgown, she's like, I think someone's here. And now they start yelling at her. And she's like, and the dog, we have a dog, it's going crazy. So she's like bent over, like holding the dog. Now I look, and there's all these red dots on her.
Right.
My disabled 72-year-old sister with Parkinson's disease, never committed a crime in her life, worked for the Department of Defense at Aberdeen Proving Grounds for 15, 20 years, and frankly got poisoned while she was there drinking the water, and that, is a whole nother story. And I'm like, my God, they're going to kill my sister. Like, they're just going to kill us. And man, I have not slept. Like, I could sleep like 2 hours. I have like these recurring nightmares of being in the back of a car and being like shot and like driven to, I've gotten as far as the emergency room. I can see it, the sign, but they won't ever let me like out of the car.
Jeez.
And it's just crazy. Like, I tell my therapist, like, I've got severe PTSD from this whole situation. And I'm like, like, if I would have robbed a bank or like shot someone, like, this would make sense. So, okay, you're going to throw flashbangs at me and whatever you're going to do. Like, okay, like, I'm a criminal. But to walk around peacefully as somebody who gets paid for their content, and frankly, I had every right to be there. And I mean, it's like, and I've dealt with so many attorneys, man, and they all basically hate me for all intents and purposes, right? Because it's just such a polarizing issue. And they're like, well, you were trespassing. I'm like, how was I trespassing? Like, nobody told me to leave. No one said don't come in here. Well, there was a gate. Well, like, I never saw any gate, man. I wish I would have seen a gate.
All right.
Or I wish just one of the 15 officers or one of the 5 SWAT that have multiple like fully automatic weapons would have told anyone just, hey, look, don't come in here.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They stood there and meandered. So yeah, so like it's like forever changed me, dude. It like rewires your brain, man. It's interesting. May of 2020, I just left work and I was coming home, and I drive by BWI Airport, which, if anybody knows that area, on Interstate 97, and it's like 3 lanes going north, and then there's 2 lanes that merge. And a drunk driver on a Friday lost control and came across 5 lanes and hit me head on the interstate at like 70 miles an hour. So I had like, that was the most violent thing I've ever been through in my life. Like, I'm very lucky not to be dead. Like, it broke my ankle. I don't have an anterior ligament anymore, but what it gave me was a traumatic brain injury. And like, I had to go to rehab on my brain. I didn't even know they had such a thing, multiple times a week for like months and months, until they would let me like start to like go back to work. I wasn't allowed to drive. It's really scary, man. Like, I when I would start to talk, I couldn't maybe all night get a sentence in, and just my brain would go.
Jeez.
But yeah. I mean, thankfully with brain injuries, like if you're not brain dead, the brain's a pretty miraculous thing, but you have to like, really, you can't be in bright lights or loud noises. And so now here, like fast forward 6, 7 months later, now I'm getting all the bright lights and loud noises with flashbangs thrown at me,
Right.
So, so the process that day was nightmarish to say the least. And this is February 12th. So it's 15 degrees outside in Maryland. It's like there's snow everywhere. So the first thing they do is wrench my arms behind my back so bad that they tore and ripped my labrum in my shoulder. Literally like gives me severe pain ever since that day. And I'm like screaming at them, not like yelling at them, but like, hey, like you're tearing my arm, you're tearing my arm. And like they don't care. So they throw me outside in the snow in shorts and a t-shirt to freeze my ass off. I don't know why they did that. So they throw me out there for like 20 minutes and repeatedly I'm like, hey, like you're tearing my shoulder. And I'm out there and I'm freezing. And there was one SWAT officer. I mean, there was like sheriff, Secret Service, FBI. I mean, there's a whole entire show. Like I was a mass murderer because I walked around peacefully, this doesn't happen in normal America. This is a severe encroachment on multiple. They violated so many of my civil rights. It's unbelievable. There was one nice officer that day, and he said, here, and he opened the door to the SWAT, to the MRAP, and he opened the driver door, and he's like, here, just like stand beside that to try to stay warm. I'm like, it's the only time anybody was like kind to me. So then after freezing for like a solid, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, I don't know. There was never any body camera footage that I don't think they told me they don't have it. I don't know if that's true or not.
Right.
I don't think you should ever be allowed to come like throwing explosives and pointing guns at disabled 70-year-old women and people that are peaceful without having like body camera, like I was so certain they were going to murder me, Nick. I'm like, it's crazy. Like, I've never had anybody point a gun at me in my life, let alone a bunch of people who just threw explosives at me, and now they're yelling at me to do something I'm doing, and they won't quit yelling it at me incessantly. I'm like, dude, like they're definitely going to kill me.
How long do you think it really took for your brain to process the situation after being woke up by that?
It's an ongoing. It's not, dude. It's not, man.
I hear you.
It completely and totally changes like your reality and frame of reference, the dynamic of what this country is or was, or hopefully we're regaining. It's just unbelievable. It's just the glaring two-sidedness. There was, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, a bunch of Antifa or whoever protesting for like Palestine.
Yeah.
4 or 5 people that day got arrested for assaulting police. What do you think happened to those people? Did they get swatted? Did they get anything? No, they get their charges dropped. It's just sick. It's just sick. Justice should be blind. I had one attorney that I gave a lot of money to that screwed me over royally, scream at me in his office that there is no justice. There's no justice. And he just like hated me. Like, so I was like in highline sales, and I used to have like 20 salespeople that worked for me for a long time. And I really got into like sales, reading eye swing, and training people on how to do it, and tone, and I don't want to say manipulation, but that's kind of what it is. But when you're selling good stuff, you really like have a duty and obligation to like provide those luxury items to people who want to buy them, right? So it's just so obvious and so evident of the hatred that they had towards me. Like it's just like they can't even hide or control it. I guess you get numb to it. I'll tell you the one thing, man. I've never been closer to God, like ever. The only relief I ever got out of this experience was putting my headphones in and putting the Bible on play and hiking through the forest and like literally screaming and crying and praying out to God in the middle of the forest. But so like back to the story. So finally, like they're laughing at me. I'm like, yo, like you're tearing my arm. So finally, they put the cuffs in front of me, and the one guy who was like in charge, and I won't bring up anyone's name in this whole situation, but he said, "Oh, he's like laughing. He thinks it's funny. It's a big game to him. He's like, oh, my arm still hurts from the academy, and I retired in 2 years." And I'm just like, what does that even mean? And I don't realize, like, dude, the level of pain. I used to run like 3 miles a day, sometimes 6. I can't do that. I'm not able to run like ever again in my life because of the pain. When I go out and drive, because I got fired from my job, like the pain just shoots down my arm. It's just, it's just a constant reminder of what these like basically crazy terrorists did to me. They came in like a bunch of crazy militants and attacked me and terrorized me, like to a scale of which I could expect if you were like Osama bin Laden. I'd say, yeah, throw flashbangs at him and then tell him put his hands on his head. And then when he does it, yell at him for another 45 seconds to keep doing it. So he thinks we're going to murder him. That'd be really great. Like, that's what they did to me. And I know that they did it on purpose. No sane or lucid person would do that. It's crazy. And then when I saw my poor sister standing there, man, it just breaks my heart that she had to go through this. But I want to try to hit the high points and go through like cliff notes, but there's so much involved with it, man. So they finally put the cuffs in front of me, and they're like, they sit me down, and my poor sister sitting there in a nightgown, just shaking terribly. The dog, they're like questioning her. She's like, "We're not criminals. Like, what are you doing?" And the back door's blown out. It's freezing. I got my disabled sister now. The whole house is freezing, and there's 20 lunatics in the house just going through stuff. Give me let me look in your phone. I need to look. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Well, you have to. I'm like, okay. You know, I had 2 gun safes downstairs. We need the combination. I'm going to drill it. I'm going to drill it. Like, just the rage and intent and just excited. It was almost like they were high on some kind of like drug of get the big bad conservative peaceful guy, get the big bad Christian guy or something. I don't know. It was really crazy. So like, you know, they sit me down. They're like, hey, like, we're here for January 6th. We're there. I was like, yeah, man. I was there recording for my YouTube channel. Like, I get paid for my content. And the guy was like this, Nick, because he knew they just messed up.
Right.
Because in any other normal court, like, and when you look at from the third party perspective, so I've reviewed so much of this video, like as soon as I go in, I'm like this, I'm like, it's very obvious what I'm doing there. And the Department of Justice has rules to where if you're going after someone in the press, which is anybody that's paid for content that disseminates, that you have to have the Attorney General sign off on the warrant. And they never did that. So they're violating their own rules. I've had people say, my own attorneys, I've been through multiple, do you have a press pass? I said, well, yeah, like it's in the Constitution. Is there a press? Is there some pass that subvents the Constitution? Well, no. Okay. Like, you know, so when I saw that agent's eyes I was like, I knew, because in my mind, I'm like, I would not break the law. Like, how stupid would you have to be to actually go do something like where, you know, there's a million cameras? Like, would anybody in their right mind go like break the law right in the face of the government? No, you have to be a lunatic. Like, I never thought I was breaking the law. And truthfully, I didn't break the law. I didn't break the law, you know? So like they ended up like getting me dressed. It was really weird. I had to go in the bathroom and like he like uncuffed like one thing. I don't know, man. It was weird. So I'll get dressed now. And now they take me down to the FBI in DC, which is like an hour drive from my house. So, and he's like, hey, do you want some like food? I'm like, no, man, I'm not hungry. Like, who's going to be hungry through this?
Right.
And so the one call I made was I called my boss. So like, I was selling new houses. Right. And at the time I had over $6 million of new homes under contract that were settling like within the next 2 months. I got fired. Right. So like that cost me 150,000 in commissions plus my job. And I was setting records. I just won President's Club the week before. So so the company I worked for, I won't name them, but they sold that year about 6,000 new homes, big company. Out of all the salespeople in Maryland, myself and only one other person made President's Club. So it's like huge award. I'm doing great. You know, I'm selling to like a bunch of military people that work at a bunch of discreet places, taking care of everybody. And now I'm getting fired. Right. So the one call I made was to my boss. He's like, don't say anything. His dad was a cop. So I go down to the FBI first, and I get in there, and they can't figure out. I guess it was some new DEI hire chick. She can't figure out how to use the machine or log my name or something. So have no criminal record.
Right.
I had like a speeding ticket, and so there's this tall guy. I don't know who is he. He's in charge in some capacity because they were all you could just tell. And he's like, have you ever read the book Echo Chamber? And I'm like, no, man, like I don't read. Like, what's it about? It's about people like you.
Oh, jeez.
You hear the same thing over and over again. You start to believe it. I'm glad they shut down Parlor. And I'm like, and in my mind, I'm thinking, this guy's insane. Like, but I didn't say anything because I'm not trying to poke the lion when I'm in the
Right.
lion's den. But like, let's just unpack that for a second. It's about people like me who are the same thing over and over again and believe it. Well, if you're a big like lefty that hates on a bunch of peaceful, God-fearing people, then you probably go home and enjoy turning on CNN and MSNBC, which is a paid propaganda. And then followed it up with barely a comma at the end of his first statement, I'm glad they shut down Parler. So if you remember back in the day, there was Parler, which was just free speech.
Right.
And it organically rose from, hey, this is what, say whatever you want. So I'm like, here's this guy talking about me hearing things over and over again and believing it. When he goes home and gets the paid propaganda force fed to him, and then he's glad they shut down a free speech thing. And it was just so shocking. And I'm just, man, like, is the propaganda that real? Are you just a soulless demon and therefore you're susceptible to all the lies? I think that's probably a big part of it. I think being a godless demon allows you to be susceptible to all this stuff. There's actually a Bible verse about it in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. And it says in the end times, God would bring strong delusion, so that those that did not believe in him and had pleasure in unrighteousness would believe a lie, and that they would all be damned who believeth not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. And it's actually, to me, it really speaks to a lot of things. Like it's like kind of that whole segment of the population. They all love the mask. Expecting a mask to stop COVID is like expecting underwear to stop a fart.
Right.
They all love, it's just like, okay, but like whatever, man, do whatever. I don't care. Whatever you want to do. No one cares. So anyway, so he said that to me. They take my pictures. Then they shuffle me off to some other DC jail. I think it was like District 5. And it's the whole re-handcuffing behind my back thing. And I'm like, dude, like, look, man, like this is like, I can feel it ripping. Like I'm feeling my arm ripping. They don't care. So so now I'm at some random place being held because of COVID. So I'm in there for like 3 hours, just arms on fire. Nobody's saying anything to me. Then the guy comes to get me and throws me in the back of a paddy wagon van to now take me to the famous DC gulag. So, and I don't know, man. I feel like they were trying to kill me. So like, this is a very evil place. It's very old. It's got like bad juju. It's got weird smells and a bunch of crazy people who are actually criminals locked up in there. But they drove me down this parking garage a few levels. And then the guy gets out of the van. It was just me and this dude. I'm handcuffed in the back. Opens the back door to the van, like where you would get in and out. But I'm like handcuffed inside of there. And then he just like leaves. And leaves me to sit in the back of the damn van with the van running in a parking garage for a half an hour. And I'm like, is this dude like trying to like suffocate me? Like what's going on, right? So, like, long story short, I get in, I get processed. They did some weird stuff and made me bend over a box, which I have no idea what was in that box or what they were trying. I don't even know, dude.
Right.
So I get into a cell, and then I finally get to talk to a judge. And they do this on a Friday, right? So their hope is that it all gets delayed. Let's run him here, let's run him there, and then he gets to enjoy the weekend in there. And this one guard was like, "Oh, are you hungry?" I'm like, no, man. Like, I don't have an appetite after being like, you've been torturing me all day long. You've torn my shoulder. I thought you were gonna murder. Like, no, like I'm not in the mood to eat your bologna sandwich. And he shoves them in my pocket. And I think the only reason why he did that. So I was there, Nick, for 3 hours. I killed 6 cockroaches.
Jeez.
6 in 3 hours. Like, imagine how many cockroaches are running around. They're fast. Like there was ones I couldn't kill that I tried. You know what I mean? So thankfully, I had a very fair judge, and the propaganda had not been able to set hold yet, right? This January 6th thing was rubbing up against the back of the Summer of Love, where these people did crazy stuff, and they had not yet had the opportunity to just replay over and over and over and over again those few instances of violence that there were, and just keep pounding people until they really felt like it was so terrible. Right. So the judge said, he's like, and their video is down. He's like, I can't see you. He's like, but I can only imagine what you've been through today. And it's ridiculous. I'm ordering you released immediately. And he tells the big scary bailiff, he's like, if he's not out of there in 1 hour, I want you to let me know. So so they let me out in about 45 minutes, and they said, get out of here. And so now here I am, right? In the ghetto part of DC. It's freezing cold. I have on jeans and just like a pullover. I have no jacket or anything. I have no phone. I have nothing, no money. And now here I am in the ghetto DC. Like, what the hell am I going to do now? So my sister, who's not, she's the only number I know off in my head.
Right.
I've been close my whole life. She didn't have any kids or anything. I call her. I find some bum smoking weed, and I'm like, "Hey, dude, can I like use your phone?" So he lets me call. She answers. I'm like, "Please, like, can you come and get me?" She's like, "Okay." It's 1 hour drive. It took her like 3 hours. She kept getting lost. Then there was like a cop walking by a couple hours into it. I'm freezing, so I don't know what to do. So I'm just pacing back and forth in front of the police station because I'm like, I probably have a less chance of getting murdered here. And like, you know, what are you going to do? So finally, I told her, like, just stop the car, tell me the signs where you are, and I will like come to you. And so that's what we did. Made it home that night. The next day I go to work. I get to work and I talk to like my partner. He's like, dude, like, have you Googled yourself? And I'm like, no, like, what are you talking about? So I Google myself and I'm like, oh my God, like forever just destroyed, right? My name isn't John Smith. I have a unique name. So, and I look, so these demons at CBS News, okay, put out a hit piece at the nightly news at 6 o'clock at night for that day, right? So they show the back door blown out, right? They show the address 4 times. Okay. Why would anybody show your address and zoom in on your address 4 times with the back door blown out? Unless you want to air that because the real lunatics know that you're not there and you're in jail and come rob the house.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So in this hit piece from CBS News, it's still up. Okay. It's all about me. It's 2 minutes of just BS. Towards the end, there's some guy like shoving people around, some kind of like vigilantism looks like, and they put a red circle around that guy. Like it's me. Anybody who would look at it will be like, look at this son of a bitch. He's obviously like being a lunatic.
Yeah.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me at all, man. And this entire experience, do you know how many people have reached out to me other than yourself? But like from like mainstream news, there's all these reports written. Like one of them is, oh, he had 2 unregistered guns.
Right.
One, Maryland, you don't have to register rifles. So like a shotgun, a long gun, it's not required to be registered. They were all, I bought them all at the same store. The ones that weren't required to be were, and I own them all lawfully. But it's written in such a way. I have one sister, I was like, oh my God, you had unregistered guns.
Right.
I didn't break the law. Like, you know what I mean? But in this whole experience, do you know how many times I've been reached out to by the news to get a comment or a story or anything?
Well, I would hope a lot, but I'm guessing not a lot.
Never.
Jeez.
Not once, with exception to Nancy Pelosi's daughter.
Really?
She reached out to my attorney within like a month.
Wow.
And I appreciate that for trying to get to the objective part of the story, because there's all this commentary that's come out in videos, if you've seen of her that day, where she's like, we all know this is a big scam. Like, it's not
right.
You know?
Yeah.
But I didn't give her any interview because my attorney's like, no, don't do it. So I'm like, okay. But so what does that mean? You have this big story. You're putting circles around dude's head. You're showing their address multiple times at doors. You know, what does this mean? Why would you not want to talk to them? Everybody would want to talk to them, wouldn't you? Even if like they hate me, don't you want me to make a statement that would incriminate or anything like that? The reason they don't is because it would go against the narrative of what they're trying to push.
Right.
And it's disgusting. So, so now coming like full circle, I've been battling this. My case prior to Trump's pardon and or dropping of charges, if your case was still active, my case was the 3rd oldest active case in the Department of Justice, unadjudicated, from January 6th, because I've been battling and have spent so much money. Like all the money I've ever worked for is gone. Right. Okay. I've never asked anybody for anything, but that's what happened.
Right.
To people that you would think that were doing the right thing, but inherently they just kind of like hate you, which is just so weird. And, you know, they keep saying, oh, well, we have these trials and it's a jury of your peers. It's not a jury of your peers. It's 94% Democrat. And the way the trial works, you get 60 jurors, you throw 20, they throw 20, and you get your alternates, and you're not statistically winning that battle. Right. It's not happening. Put these cases somewhere where it's actually split 50-50, you probably hardly get any convictions, frankly. except for some of these guys that were violent, which I don't condone at all. I think that's ridiculous. But, you know, I think a lot of it was self-defense, but there was obviously a lot of bad crap that should have never happened. So those charges got thrown out. So in the interim, 6 months later, as a result of them raiding my house, using the Patriot Act against me, literally for 6 months, Nick, sent people to follow me. These pricks followed me to the gym because the one lurchy guy, he was wearing his mask. You'd only see his eyes. He would bring a bag upstairs to the weight room. And I like was a member at this swanky gym. Like, you can't do that. You're not allowed to walk around with bags.
Right.
And it's a huge place. So this prick, so he would be over there, he would follow me there. So when I would see him, then I would just walk to the other side of the gym just to be a jerk. So then he would get up and walk over. And I'm like telling my attorney, like, this guy's like literally there all the time. It's just weird. Like, it's just, you know, he's like, well, just go take his picture. So he knows you're not afraid. So I would like go up and take his picture and leave. And one day I was watching him in the mirrors. He was watching me, and he wasn't putting the weight back on the machines. Just more disrespect, really, frankly. Right. It's kind of like these just some disrespectful pricks. A lot of them, I'm sure, are great people, but the ones that have bought into the lies, man. So I went up to him, I'm like, hey, look, dude, put the weight back on the machine. He's like, I did. I said, on the one you just got off, but not the one before. Like, if you're going to be in my gym following me around, that's one thing, but be respectful while you're here.
Yeah.
You know, it's just crazy, man. But it's just more mental torture. I had a trip planned to Texas. That actually they had a complaint on me. Then they like indicted me the day before my trip to Texas. And so my orders were, hey, look, you can go anywhere you want, but you have to let us know if you leave the state and don't come back to DC until like this is over with. So I had this trip to Texas. So I'm like calling every week to these probation people in DC, which you have to call in. Just the process of I've basically been on probation for 4 years. Haven't so much as had a speeding ticket. Like, you know what I mean? It's been half a decade, man. 10% of my entire life now has been consumed with this craziness. And so I'm like, hey, I'm going to Texas. They're like, no problem. Send us your itinerary. I'm like, here you go. Texted all this stuff. So the day they indict me, which is the day before I go to Texas, when I'm now before the judge and the prosecutor's doing whatever his shenanigans, he says, Your Honor, the FBI just informed me yesterday that Mr. Costianes is going to Texas and no one knew. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, dude? He's like, it literally says this, man. It's so crazy. These people live in La La Land. He goes, Texas is beside Mexico. We think he's going to walk to Mexico. And I'm like, who the hell walks to Mexico, bro? Like, who's doing that? Not walking. Like, what are you talking about? So then now he's demanding my passport. It's just so crazy. There's so many crazy things that have happened. It's unbelievable, man. And so here's the most important thing as far as like what we're talking about now. I could go on and on with a bunch of really insane stories and maybe it'll come out at some point. But what I'm going with now, they spent 6 months to then fabricate a case on me based on things that they didn't like that I had in my house, and charged me with all these other new charges. So I've been now battling that, and I've had attorneys that I've hired and paid a lot of money to, and this is very important. I filed after the first experience and the amount of egregious violations of my rights, namely my Sixth Amendment right to effective assistance of counsel. I was lied to. It's just shocking the things that have happened. The case is under seal, so nobody can see. If that case was not under seal, people would be like, it's unbelievable. Okay.
Right.
But I filed what's called a 2255 motion. They're very, very rare they ever get filed. I did it pro se, and it's exceptionally rare any judge ever signs off on it. So I did it for a violation of my Sixth Amendment rights, ineffective assistance of counsel. I printed out all this stuff from this attorney who lied, obfuscated. Just it's shocking what he did. And I had like 12 exhibits and I filed it with the court. And like a month later, the judge said, and I had been sentenced. I was promised probation for the stuff they didn't like when they raided me as a result of the January 6th raid, which is fruits of the poisonous tree, right? If I lie and say, hey, Nick, your taillight's burned out, I'm pulling you over when it's not, and then find out you're drunk and give you a DUI, but the whole reason that I pulled you over was on a lie, then that's fruits of the poisonous tree. So you're coming swatting me on a lie for something that's constitutionally protected right I have. This whole thing is ridiculous and should be thrown out. So the judge read what I filed. He said, there is no way I'm putting you in prison until we get to the bottom of this. And he then paid for it because this whole experience has broke me, dude. I deliver pizza, man. I used to make a lot of money I paid very, very, very well, and I sacrificed many years to be like a very highly awarded and regarded sales professional in the DC metro area, and met a lot of friends over that time. And that was all taken away from me, and now I'm stuck in just this nightmare, right? So, long story short, we get through this process with two brand new attorneys that are very powerful and very highly regarded. They did the same thing to me in a different vein. On the front end, it was wonderful. They did all this magical stuff, promised me probation, all this stuff, no big deal. But then lied and obfuscated tremendously huge facts to where the judge said, I don't even care about what you're charged with, but it's these tremendously huge facts that I have a problem with. Those facts are a lie. It's not factual. And they knew it. And here's the thing. When I moved back to West Virginia, I was a full-time caretaker for my sister. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, man. I'm dressing her, there's like diapers involved, food, it's like a whole thing. But her and I have been so close, and I push her to do these exercises, got her on medicine. She really started improving. Now it's digressed, but all these attorneys had to do was file this one form that says he's a caretaker for his sister. And I would have, even if I was convicted, I would just be like on an ankle monitor. They never did that, man. Not only is it enough to destroy your life and destroy this woman, never been married, no kids, most kind-hearted person. She's never had a drink of alcohol in her life. Couldn't be any sweeter. Tormented with terrible disease that I'm sure there's plenty of people in the time that she worked there. They say if you work there for 30 days from the water that was poisoned at Aberdeen Proving Grounds, you could have all these neurological disorders. She worked there 15 years on base. Jeez. As a DOD contractor, and it's just, and not only did they want to destroy my life, my whole reputation, my job, my mental health, threaten like let's just keep yelling, put your hands on your head for a minute. That'll get them. It's one of the most terrifying things. You will pray to God and make peace with your maker instantly when then put in that situation. And it will never escape like the mental ingraining that takes place with something like that, man. People say, oh, when my kid was born, there's certain things in life, I guess, that are just so shocking and drive so much adrenaline. Yeah. This was definitely one of them. So not only were they happy to destroy my life, lie, obfuscate, and do all these wicked things, but I caught their asses and filed it with the court. And the judge has been very, very fair with me, and I've been very lucky, even though he's a very scary man. I'm sure he probably doesn't like me. He's very, very smart, and he's been fair with me. And that's, but they wanted to destroy my sister's life. She just gave me just a little bit of money, just like a fraction, just barely enough so I could like pay my phone bill and stuff for me to quit my job and be her full-time caretaker. After a year, I just got so burned out. We hired somebody to come from like 9 to 3. So 6 hours, 5 days a week. That bill was over $5,000 a month. And insurance doesn't pay for home health care. You have to spend all your money until you're broke, and then it's like Medicaid.
Right.
They never filed that form to make the court aware of what I was doing. So now you're destroying this elderly woman who's got she's fully disabled life with her sister, who she's like been close to her whole life, and her caretaker. I mean, it's just wicked, brother. But so 2 weeks ago, based on those charges, I was supposed to turn myself into prison after I did the new resentencing and got basically shafted and got my hand held down the Golden Brick Road to more lies and obfuscation of the truth to the judge by these defense attorneys. And I filed another 2255 motion. I talked to the one guy on the phone. I'm like, hey, look, man, like he wasn't even there. There's two of them. The one was. I said, you're telling me this doesn't matter. But the judge said, what? I pled guilty to one charge. He said that this charge he didn't even care about, but it was all these other things that were a complete and total lie. That's the reason why he's like, wants to put me in prison. How are you telling me this doesn't matter? That attorney tells me, well, if you want, you can file another 2255 against me. So I did. And I filed it in December, and I heard nothing. In the interim of that, I have an appeal in that case for some just like technicalities that allows for resentencing that my last attorneys had filed. Once I filed that 2255 motion for them violating my Sixth Amendment right for effective assistance of counsel, they withdrew from me being counsel, and I got this brilliant and amazing and highly regarded appellate defense attorney. And we started talking like literally 3 weeks ago. And I was explaining my whole situation. And she's like, you need, God bless her, man. She's like, you need a good conservative attorney to help you. I said, well, that would be great. Like, do you know one? She's like, no. So like, hey, I appreciate your honesty.
Right.
And I think just the narrative and the propaganda was so strong that these people believe that all of us were like evil, mean people who wanted to do bad stuff. And that's not the case at all.
Right.
Not the case at all. If me and you go to a football game and a fight breaks out and someone gets killed, are you a murderer because you were at the game?
No.
Right. But in this instance, yes, you are.
Right.
And so it's sad, but I think the truth is it took getting to a really dark place to now a lot of people are seeing what's going on. But some moral of the story, she filed for me pro se as a friend of the court to ask the judge to review what I'd filed, asking for an extension of time based on the fact that, again, here my rights are being violated. Here's Exhibit 1, Exhibit 2, Exhibit 3. Here's emails for these egregious things that address exactly what happened. And he granted me another 3 weeks. So I've been now 2 weeks in, and my wonderful, I'm very blessed to have appellate attorney has filed another motion addressing the things that I filed, and then now the elephant in the room, which is in Trump's executive order. It says in Section B, grant a full, complete, and unconditional pardon to all other individuals convicted of offenses related to the events that occurred at or near the Capitol on January 6th. Pardon to all other individuals convicted of offenses related to events that occurred at or near the Capitol. I would have never had any of these charges if it wasn't for January 6th. My case needs to be thrown out. And as I stand here right now, it's not been. And so I believe as of like yesterday, there's still 5 people incarcerated. Jeremy Brown's story is another huge one. It's shocking when you dig into that one with what's happened. There's myself that's to be incarcerated. And there's a couple people that had charges that I just have something on their record and they would like that to be exhumed. So there's a lot of questions still now. Anyone that looks at that fairly at face value, it says an unconditional pardon to all other individuals convicted of offenses related to events that occurred. This is like an easy one. Fruits of the poisonous tree. So, I've been so happy to see everybody get released. These people like weren't even there. They get 20 years, all this stuff. Even the people that were violent should have never been. I think it's not good at all. How many, like, what is normal sentence for somebody that like punches a cop or shoves a gate into a cop? Do they get 4 years normally for that? I don't know. Seems like a long time.
Right.
But so now they're all pardoned and everybody's like, that's great. And it's like, great. But it's like my nightmare is still going on because I wasn't pardoned because I was never convicted of January 6th. My charges have been dropped, but I've got this other federal case that's 1,000,000% fruits of the poisonous tree. So I've been trying to tweet out, and for anybody watching this, if you could, my Twitter's there, Mr. Costianes at Mr. Costianes. Nick, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me just to kind of share the story. It's a real nightmare, man. And I can't, there aren't words to describe the way it makes you feel. Like, if you ever get sick or get the flu and your whole body hurts.
Yeah.
This mentally, just the mental stress and terrorism that they put onto you.
Right.
When you never did anything wrong, but then like half my friends hate me. I was banned from USAA. I've been with USAA member forever. They canceled everything I've ever had. I've been banned from American Express. I've been banned from Uber. I can't get on a plane like a normal person. I used to be TSA safe. That's all taken away. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So as much as January 6th is over, it's still ongoing for about 10 of us.
Right.
And I'm hoping something will change. I haven't heard anything. I've been trying to reach out to my attorney. I've not heard back yet, but I know she's busy as well. So yeah, that's kind of my story in a nutshell, man. I don't wish it upon anyone.
Right.
It's been a blessing in that I've never been closer to God. And I pray for all of the people who were in the position of persecuting the hell out of me. the effectiveness in the terror that you provided upon me that day that you raided me was unlike anything I could ever imagine. And I guess if you're training on this and you're a real professional and you really want to get somebody, what you did to me is about the extreme extent of that, to cause just really mental torture. And I've not slept like even 4 hours straight. I can't. I just, you know, but I'm alive, man. Right.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, that's always a good start.
Yeah, but in a nutshell, my brother, that's kind of my story.
All right,
It's
man.
written, man.
You got time for a couple questions?
Let's do it, man.
I like to ask everyone that I have on regarding this issue, if you had like a time machine and you could go back, would you do it again?
No.
You're actually the first person that said no.
I am.
Yeah, but yours is
No
still
way.
ongoing, you know. Theirs
Dude,
is not.
you know how bad my arm hurts? I really like to just cut it, like just the physical pain.
Right.
My life is jacked, man. It's not jacked, but it's just I used to have a normal life. I
Yeah.
used to work really hard, make a bunch of money, pay a bunch of taxes, never hurt anybody, never would hurt anybody. It's like this elephant just sits on your chest all the time. And like I said, I guess like if I would have, I feel like if I would have like committed a crime, I didn't commit a crime.
Right.
I would have committed a crime or robbed a bank. Then like, okay, do they even swat people for that? I don't even know. But to go after somebody for a misdemeanor and bring violence upon him and his disabled sister, and then dude, you know what they leave my sister some business card. She paid $1,500 to have some guy come and put a piece of plywood in the back door. She's sitting there freezing.
Right.
The whole thing's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The whole thing's ridiculous.
I don't disagree with you. Do you think how has this affected like your personal life, like your relationships with your friends and stuff like that? Are you still friends with most people, or did that negatively affect it?
I've lost 40% of my friends, you know, and they're just adamant, as adamant as they are about wearing a mask. They're like, you know, why would you do that? You shouldn't have done it.
Right.
I'm like, because like I'm following the story, man. I felt obligated to go because I'm like, I get paid. I have almost 10,000 subscribers. I'm like, I'm going to get millions of views. Yeah. I don't know what's going on, but I know I'm going to record this.
Right.
And it wasn't until basically my phone was almost dead that I was like, okay. Plus, it was like weird. I was like, this is just doesn't, I don't know. Like this, I'm just, but it's just the narrative pushers. I met this college student. I live in a college town because I drive like some ride share too.
Yeah,
and,
right on.
Her dad is a Capitol police officer. She's like, oh, I'll never forget that day. My dad told me to barricade myself in the thing. And I was like, I'm actually, we became friends. She's very, very sweet.
Yeah.
She's like, I said, you know, I got something to tell you. Like, I'm actually a January 6th defendant. She was like, I was like, she started trembling. She's like, oh my God. And I'm like, no, like, it's not like she was terrified. And I'm like, here. And so like, give her my phone. I'm like, look at these videos. And she looked at a couple and she's like, I never saw anything like that on TV. And I'm like, yeah, like, you know, so it's a shame what has been, but now we are unburdened by what has been.
Right.
But I'm still dealing with the nightmare, you know. So yeah, I've spent a lot of money on MRIs. They make you like pay $1,500 copay. I've seen multiple sports medicine doctors. They're like, yeah, we can go repair the tear, but the pain going away, we can't guarantee.
Right on.
So it's just, I guess for the rest of my life, I live in severe pain and the shock and I mean, you experience shock and awe. It's why I used to go to my therapist a lot more than I do. I only go once a month now just because I don't like to go because it just brings it up. I don't think it's healthy to keep it in, but it's just like, so I'm hoping like at someday, you know, the truth will really come out and, you know, what they did to myself, the people I love my country, love God, always support. Like I used to want to be an FBI agent actually when I was a kid. My buddy's cousin was one, and I was like, that's so cool. And I know there's a lot of good people there, but sadly, there's a lot of maybe it's just because it's from the district, the people from there came. I don't know. But they really enjoyed and relished the fact of what I went through. And they thought it was funny that they tore my arm. You know, just a lot of things done that just aren't fair to somebody who, for what? For like a misdemeanor,
Yeah, right.
you know.
A lot of
So
evil in the world.
yeah, it's a lot of evil in the world, but the truth is as I mean, you know, we've got Trump back in office. And
Yeah,
so I'm hoping maybe he can extend the language of this pardon. I'm hoping that my attorney would get a good filing. I do believe my judge is very fair. He's brilliant. He's very smart. So we'll see what happens. But I appreciate very much the time that you've given me to come talk about it.
yeah, right on. This is the last question for you. If you like 20 years from now, if you look back on this, what message would you hope your story has shared with the world?
That Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, and God literally loves you so much. We're made in His image. And the fact that heaven is so amazing, we actually don't even have the ability to imagine how amazing it is. And that's what matters.
Right on. Well, Elias, I thank you for coming on and sharing your story. Hopefully, one day you'll look back at this and realize that sometimes the painful moments are the most beautiful moments, but you often don't realize it during that time.
I hope so too, my brother.
Right on. I appreciate it, and you have a good one.
Thanks so much, man. God bless.
Thanks.